A very warm welcome to part 2 of our amazing podcast with Paul Adamson. It was really, really great to have you with us on the first one. And hopefully you will learn some more valuable and incredible lessons from talking to Paul as we do in this second session.
Oyster Yachts got into difficulty and entered administration, unfortunately. And so this was the brand of the yacht that, you know, I'd been a junior commissioner on, I'd met my wife on.
Yeah, it's in your heart.
It was absolutely.
You didn't want to see it go anywhere.
Oyster is a bit very, very close to my heart. And so what happened was then is that during that administration time, Richard called and said, listen, I want to buy Oyster out of administration. I just don't think the world would be quite a brighter place without Oyster Yachts in existence. And so he basically engaged me to be part of the turnaround team. We had to win the business from the administrators. And I know the moment we did that. I knew the moment exactly when we would win Oyster out of that. And that was the first moment I walked into Saxonworth. I knew that what we needed to do was we needed to convince the administrator that we were the right team to put the business back together again. And I knew it was all in that first handshake. That first impression, you know, it was all in that. And so I made it my business to go in, meet the administrator straight away, shake their hand, smile, not in a forced way, but just be really genuine. But also, I guess I'd learned from Eddie how to disarm people with humor and actually being great fun, you know, and shook the guy's hand and said, hi, I'm Paul. I'm going to show you exactly why we are the team to win this business off you. You might not think it, but we'll prove it to you, you know. And he kind of laughed and he laughed it off. But that was the moment that then definitely opened their mind, because there were a lot of other people really interested in that business.
Great business. Yeah.
And so what happened then, we did actually win the business out of administration. And we did things like, you know, like when the administrator asked for, just give it literally 2 sentences on why your team is the right thing. Well, I didn't give them 2 sentences. I gave them a 30-page slide deck, which had beautiful graphics of the world, the journey, the people, the mindsets, people that really understood the brand. And I knew, and when I handed it to Paul, you've not done what we asked, because, you know, we're only going to literally collapse this and take 2 sentences out of it. I was like, I know you are. But that slide deck wasn't to pass on. It was for them to go. And also, my bet is the competition didn't do that.
Yeah. And they've got to find 2 sentences out of the slide deck. So they've got to go through the slide deck.
So they've got to go
anyway.
through the whole slide deck, exactly. Yeah. So then we won the business out of administration. And then I was then engaged then to be to go in as part of the C team to be Chief Commercial Officer, which effectively was the front end or the customer facing side of the business. So this would be to rebuild an order book, rebuild trust in the brand, and then basically rebuild the business back up. And that really, the whole Oyster journey was incredible. It was so close to my heart. I felt like I was doing like a spiritual job here, you know, and putting this thing back together. Because Oyster, the brand is all about family. It's all about really taking care of people in a genuine way. You know, yes, there's a business element involved, but by God, these yachts go off and do incredible things, and you create memories that last a lifetime on them. And so Oyster then, when we walked in, there were 10 people, I think, left in the business, like a skeleton crew. They'd let, I think, about 600 people go. And then our job was to rebuild it from scratch.
Wow.
And I can tell you, that was my MBA on the job, because there were plenty of times I felt way out of my depth, way out of my comfort zone, all of those things. But I had a belief in myself that there's always a way, regardless. Even if I can't see in the moment, you know, there's always a way. I understand the brand. I understand the clientele very, very well. And so we then went through a process of really earning trust back in the business. And that was the key. So I always remember like one of the first board meetings. And bear in mind, I'd only been in a board meeting as a consultant presenting what I was doing, either with the sales team or a leadership team, whatever. It wasn't now, this is my team, you know, it's a different world, right? I always remember they said, okay, so what's the strategy, Paul? What's the strategy? I go, earn trust. And they all go, huh? Is there not like a 50-page document to do that? I was like, no, there isn't. I said, because as Tony Robbins says, complexity is the enemy of execution, right? You know, we can make things so complex that we just don't do them because we get overwhelmed. So no, we got to earn trust. And we've got to earn trust in 3 things. One is the product. because they had a keel failure on one of the yachts.
Yeah.
So we've got to earn trust back in the product. We've got to earn trust in the new owner of the business, and then we've got to earn trust of the people of the company itself. You know, I think if a company, as Branson says, is a collection of people, right? And then so what we did, so everything we did was based around that. Does this earn us trust? Yes or no? Kept it super simple. And then from that, then we rebuilt the business back up. And I always remember, like, the first 6 months were really tough, because it was not only you had to hire, we were making decisions on hiring in 10 or 15 minutes because we didn't have time to wait.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Can't
you had
build
to
anything
just
without any people.
totally go off instinct and go off gut. And you know, you didn't get it right all the time, but, you know, we got it right most of the time. And then, you know, kind of like, I remember, like, the first 6 months, the phone call coming in, where are the sales, Paul? Where are the sales, Paul? And I'm like, it's going to take time. So
build the brand up again.
So each month, I've kind of brought, don't worry, it'll be another month. Oh, maybe we've got a few people, because there were people there, but they weren't willing to commit at that point, because, you know, if you think about it, you're buying a freaking expensive yacht, but also you're putting your hard-earned cash down as a deposit, unsecured, against
into
a
brand new business
that failed. So it's like, how do I know? But, you know, so anyway, so it took us 6 months, and I remember the first deal, it was a 745 to an American guy who was an amazing guy. And what was amazing was, because you could feel like the demand was there, but you couldn't really, but people just, they weren't coming off the fence. But once the first deal was signed, that closed the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the thing.
Because someone saw some momentum.
And they'll say, well, if this guy's in, then I'll go in. You know, they're okay, fine. And then so it was a case of that there was two parts to rebuilding up. One was renegotiating the original build contracts that were left, all the yachts trapped in build, getting those yachts built and out to those owners, and then bringing new people on board into the brand. So that, I mean, that taught me so much, you know, about leadership, people, you know, just being instinctive, being really entrepreneurial, doing it in the moment. So it was an amazing proving ground. And then what happened, I remember we got to, so we started to get some traction, and then we got to COVID, where the world shuts down, right? So now everyone's freaking out again, right? And so then it was like, and so then whilst everyone's freaking out, going, this could be over now for Oyster, you know, we've come so far. I think because COVID was 2019, right? So I think we're about
20,
a year in.
Yeah.
Okay, so 20. So, okay, a year and a half, 2 years into it. And then, so we got some traction. We had built an order book up, but not a big one at all. And so COVID hits. Everyone starts to freak out. Oh, you know, this is it. It's going to be over. I said, well, it could be over, or it could be the best thing that's ever happened to this company. It just depends how we reframe it in our minds, right?
It's your mindset.
Yeah. Totally come back to mindset. And they go, well, what do you mean, Paul? I said, well, think about it. What are we doing every night now? Tell me, what are you doing? Tim was like, well, we are watching Sky News, CNN, BBC News, how many people have died, what the latest COVID thing, all of it, you know, the tragedy of what COVID was, right? I said, yeah, that exactly, snap. I said, and what do you think our ideal client is doing? Exactly the same thing. I said, exactly. But I said, you know what? There's something called the law of familiarity, which is that when we do something for so long and it becomes repetitive and the same, there comes a point where we take it just a little bit for granted and we get a little bit bored. And I said, at that point, our focus and our mind switches. And I said, that's where we need to have Oyster as that shining light of positivity in this pandemic. I said, in fact, we need to start our own pandemic of positivity. That's what we need to do with our clients. And they go, oh yeah, it all sounds good, Paul, but how are you going to do this? I said, well, I saw a guy years ago in the States that always talked about that big breakthroughs in industries generally don't come from the industry, because people do the same in industry. You keep your eye on the competitors and you all do the same. So you all do it maybe 5-10% a bit better. So you all grow incrementally. But when you look outside your industry and find a strategy or a plan that you can bring into an industry that's completely new, that could really change the game. Not all of them, but it could really change the game. So, you know, he made the point at the time, ballpoint pen, roll on deodorant. Or buggies collapsing comes from planes landing gear. So these things, fiber optics now for communications and the internet, right? There's so many things, so I said, I've done a bit in the speaking industry. And the way that speakers grow their beards and says is they run this thing called a webinar. I said, so everyone's at home and they've got an internet connection. So why don't we run a series of webinars where we talk about the Oyster World Rally. We'll run another one. We'll launch it. But what we'll do is we'll take them on a journey around the world over maybe 6 months or so and give them that bit of entertainment that's positive that they can come to and they can really enjoy. And I said, I'm happy to run them, and we'll see where it goes. So, okay. And everyone was like, yeah, that ain't going to work, right? Yeah, okay. So anyway, so I remember one of the team members said...
How could they not trust you by now?
Well, fair enough. That's fair. Well, it's because they called me Positive Paul, which was, don't tell Paul it'll tell you can be done and it can't, So, but the piece then was then I said, I can remember that one of the team said, Paul, for the Zoom subscription, do you want it, so you can either have 500 or 1,000 or 10,000. There's a big leap in the price. What do you want to do? And I go, well, go 1,000, right? And then so we go 1,000. Anyway, fast forward, we put this thing out to the database, which we had, and we filled it. And then we ended up then, and just imagine this now, 1,000 of your ideal clients giving you their most valuable resource on earth.
Time.
Which is their time. Exactly. And focus. And so what we did was then I took them on a journey where I talked about building Lush and all of these things. And what was interesting here, and I think that the key here to learn is in the business world, it's creating that experience. People talk about creating an experience. I never talked about, this is an oyster, it's beautifully designed, it's beautifully built. None of that. It was just, this is what you could do with your oyster, and this is what we did. And these were the adventures that we had. And then I planned that we would just give a little pitch about halfway through, of which I think we'd got to the Galapagos and then we're going to launch across the Pacific, right? And I just said, look, I've got great news. I said, we're actually going to run another Oyster World Rally in 2020, whatever it was. I said, there's only 30 places and there's 1,000 of you online. And so if it is something you're interested in, we would love to speak to you about that. So all you need to do is just express your interest, that's all. And whether you build a new boat or we'll help you find a pre-loved oyster, we can do that too, right? That was like 20 seconds hard, 30 seconds max, right? Now I'm operating on 3 screens. So I've got like the slide deck, the webinar, so I can see everyone. And then I've got then my email on the screen. And all I can see is the email's doing this, like this. Again, the sales team out there, And then we just continued back into content again. Anyway, from that webinar, we filled the next Oyster World Rally, and I think we sold, and I'm going to get the numbers slightly wrong, but it was somewhere between 14 and 18 new oysters off that moment.
Yeah, change is a defining moment for the company.
Exactly. Yeah. And then what that really allowed us to do then was really keep building the momentum up with oyster, and to the point when I left the business in October 2022 is when I left, is the yards were full for 4 years in advance. There were I think it's about 700 people building oysters between 4 yards, 3 or 4 yards, can't remember. 4 yards, and it's just so proud to actually been part of that team, to actually
your legacy.
Put oyster back onto the map, and then to see these people go off and have the same kind of journey on the rallies that we had is just incredible. And then so what happened then was I'd kind of done all I could really do with oyster. It was time for a new team to take the business on, right? And so decided we were going to leave. I came out, and then I got probably the biggest punch in the stomach that anybody can get, right? So I come out of oyster on a high, and in fact, whilst we were down, because we're part of Richard's vision in the beginning of the business was to design a smaller oyster, like under 50 foot. And then the idea then is to get people on the brand sooner, not necessarily when when they've got all the time in the world and they've sold their business, whatever, but to get them on sooner. And so we designed the smallest oyster fleet, which was the 495. And I remember we had this kind of discussion, are we going to enter into European Yacht of the Year? So European Yacht of the Year is basically where all the manufacturers, the journalists for Europe come together, all the manufacturers put their new boats in, if you're brave enough, and it's like the Oscars for these yachts. And then the journalists sail all yachts over a period of a few days in Barcelona, and then they decide who's going to be European Yacht of the Year. Then they announce it at Dusseldorf Boat Show. Now, I was convinced with the 565 we were going to win that, right? And I had the whole board in Dusseldorf when they go, and European Yacht of the Year is not the Oyster. And I was like, oh, swallow me up now. So anyway, we didn't win it. And then with the 495, we were hesitant. But then we were like, you know what? We're going to do it. We're going to go for it. Let's just put the boat in. And so we do it. And I remember because this was Eddie's boat. So it's like full circle, right? And so Eddie had decided to build the second one to support the business, and Rich had decided to build the third. So just the first boat, just to get them going, right? And Eddie's boat was wild. I mean, it should really have been for John Bon Jovi or something like that, down below. I mean, it was a true rock star's boat inside. So then trying to convince the journalists, oh, this is a Irish artist called Marky Robinson, so it's based off, whatever. And in fairness, they totally got it. Anyway, I remember we'd had a great day on the water, and we came in and we parked on this dock. And quite often what would happen is all the yachts would be parked onto the back there, and then you'd have normally a little dock party at the end of the day. We had a great day on the water. So I jump off the back of the boat and grab a beer. Anyway, phone rings again in the pocket. Pick up the phone, and then this phone call changed my life again. But this phone call was different. And what this was Paul, it's the hospital. Can you talk? And so I was like, yeah, just give me 2 seconds. So I put my beer down or walk away from the crowd. And they said, Paul, we've got the results of your biopsy back. And so now I'm listening, right? So now because a few weeks before in Cannes Boat Show, I discovered a little lump in my groin. I thought nothing of it because I was totally fit and healthy as far as I was concerned. Anyway, and in that moment they go, Paul, we know that you'd want to know this, and you told us not to wait as soon as we got the results back. So we're doing what you asked. We need to tell you you've been diagnosed with something called follicular lymphoma. And I was like, well, what on earth is follicular lymphoma? And they go, it's a blood cancer, Paul. You're going to need treatment. And you can imagine in the moment now, it's just people all around me.
Yeah.
My heart sinks, adrenaline runs. I feel fear enter my body like I've never felt fear before, ever, like that. And it was like, oh my God. And I was like, well, what do I need to do? And then, well, you need to come back here now, and we need to get you into the CT scanner quickly, and we need to, look, it's treatable, but you're going on a journey, basically. So anyway, so I put the phone down, and I'm looking back at the group, and the guys are like going, come on. And I'm like, in that moment, I have to make a split decision, because it's almost like, so I've just been told I've got a freaking blood cancer, right? And I'm looking over at this group, and I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I just going to bail this now? I'm going to walk away. I'm just going to say, guys, I've had some bad news or whatever. And you know what? I thought to myself, no way. We have come too far. We are going to win this award. If it's the last thing that I do on this planet, because I had no idea about what the outcome would be, I'm going to win this award. We've come too far. We've come way too far. This is my team, And so I walked back into that crowd feeling like shit, basically, right? And feeling full of fear. And I say, right, that's it. I'm going to stay here for the 2 days, and we're going to win this award. And so that's what I did. I didn't tell them at the time. They had no idea. And I think they twigged subsequently that something was just, my mood had changed slightly. But I remember sailing the next day. I was totally present in the moment. I wasn't worried about my phone. I wasn't distracted by a WhatsApp ping. I was in the moment on that yacht, watching the telltales, enjoying the feeling of breeze on my face, watching the sun dip, all of those things, and just really enjoying being there. And then flew home, and then went into treatment. of which then I went into 6 months of chemo and immunotherapy. And I was lucky, very lucky and blessed that by treatment 3, it had all gone.
Wow.
Completely all gone. And so they were looking at, you're going to be okay from this, Paul. You are going to be fine. And there's a core belief that I have, and that is that life is happening for us, not to us. And one of the things that I teach quite often is, I always believe that, I teach kind of 3 things. I teach choose your lens. And what that means is that our mindset governs everything. And so our meaning really governs how we feel, and how we feel really governs our life in the moment. So I was like, right, what lens am I going to look? So I needed to choose the meaning in the moment. And I decided, okay, and my mind is going nuts because I'm thinking, am I out of here in 3 months? I've got young kids, I've got a family, I've got all of these things. All of that. That really bothered me. And then it was like, okay, so the meaning is this could be the end or the beginning. What do you choose, Paul? I was like, it's the beginning. It's the beginning of something new. Even if I can't see right now what that is, it is the beginning of something new. And then I knew that then what I needed to do was then I have another core belief, which is always look for the gift. Meaning whatever comes into our life experience, whatever it may be, both positive, mediocre, or neither way, or negative, whatever it is, where's the gift in it? Because if we search and what I found is that if we tee our brain up to do that, we will find that gift. And quite often that gift, that's when we grow most as human beings. When we're challenged, when we're pushed, that's when we realize what true resilience is. It's when we're literally pushed to our limit. And I can remember by treatment 3, like treatment 1 and 2 were okay. It was okay, maybe sick for a few days. But treatment 3, because it progressively knocks you to your knees, that wiped me. And I remember speaking to my oncologist that day and saying, I'm curious, out of the treatment that you treated me with, when was the science done? And he goes, like 1982. And I was like, what? I was watching Back to the Future then and trying to be Michael J. Fox wearing sneakers and a body warmer. Do you know what I mean? Or
whilst in a canoe.
Or Ghostbusters or something like that. What? He goes, well, the outcomes have been so good, Paul, that there's no money really been poured into it. And it really just stuck with me. And I was like, that isn't right. That can't be right. So because it's classed as incurable, treatable but curable, or the other way to see it is manageable. Meaning that actually, so basically they put it to sleep and then you'd hope you get a long remission, it wakes up and they put it to sleep again, and they can do that for, many, 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 many years. And so I said, this is ridiculous. So 4 a.m, I remember I woke up feeling grim, and then I heard this little voice, but it was my voice as a little boy. And I was feeling pretty grim, and I was just feeling like, how have I ended up here? And this little voice said, where's the gift, Paul? Or remember what you always believed. Always look for the gift. Always look, what could you learn from this? What could you learn from this? I was like, that's a good question. I thought, well, there must be somebody out there searching for the cure. There must be somebody out there in the world. I can't be on my own thinking this isn't possible, that we're just accepting this. And so, hit Google, 4 a.m, it's dark, and I come across a lady called Nicola Mendelsohn. Now, Nicola Mendelsohn happens to be the head of global business for Meta. So you can't get much higher. Well, you can. It's up to Zuckerberg next, right? But Nicola's right up there. And Nicola was diagnosed at about the same age that I was, at 45. And she just didn't accept it. So this is ridiculous. No one's actually funded research into getting the cure for follicular lymphoma, or the long-term cure. So she set up a foundation called the Follicular Lymphoma Foundation. She raised a load of money and started, basically, the foundation then funds research between America here and in Australia, I think, as well. And so I reached out to her through LinkedIn and said, hey, Nicola, you don't know me. I've been diagnosed. I'm going through treatment, but I can't help you with the science to find this cure. But one thing I can do is I've sold yachts to a lot of wealthy people. So I bet I can help you with funding, or at least some ways to engage, reach, let's get more awareness, all this stuff. So she came back to me, she introduced me to the funding people in there, in the foundation. And then what we did was I was speaking to them, I was going, so how are you raising your funds? And they're like, we've got a number of wealthy individuals plus different companies. I was like, okay, cool. What else? What events are you doing? And they were running some events, but not mega events at that point. So I said, well, do you know what you should do? And I learned this from Eddie. Again, the whole thing of looking outside a particular business or an industry and looking for something that's successful elsewhere and putting it in. I said, so Eddie at that time sat on the board of a UK charity called Amber. And Amber basically gets kids that have lost their way for whatever reason. It could be tragic circumstances, it could be drugs, it could be domestic abuse, whatever it may be. And they have a number of safe houses all around the UK. And they basically get them safe, rehabilitate them, sort them out. And then through the donors who are business owners, they get them back into employment. And the journeys, the turnarounds are beautiful. Like, they're amazing. What Eddie used to do when he was alive, God rest his soul, is every 2 years they ran an event called Amber Rocks. Now, Eddie had more connections than Vodafone, right? So he could get anybody in that room in London. So he would fill it full of like 600 people. He'd get U2 to do it, or Van Morrison, whoever, and it'd just be wild. Quite often, he'd raise a good chunk of money for Amber on those evenings. So I said to the guys in the FLF, I said, why don't we model Amber Rocks? And we do something similar. And from that, they set up a gala dinner, right? And I said to them, I said, look, if you want, I'm really happy to keynote it and just give, I don't know, I'll tell my story in 5-6 minutes or something like that. And hopefully we'll move the room emotionally, right? And they said, fine. So I walk into Nobu Hotel, and I mean, they've done an incredible job. The room is beautiful. They got amazing things to auction off. So you had like an evening with Boy George. You had a day with Piers Morgan. There was all sorts of stuff. So they're well connected, right? And so anyway, so I stood up and I keynoted. And it was the only time I've ever known what I was going to say or had an idea. And it just, and right at the end of that, when everyone clapped and just, had moved me or moved them, is I heard that little voice again that said, see, this was the gift. Mm. If you can be part of this or just do your bit to find this cure for follicular lymphoma, that is a life well lived. And I was like, oh my God. So then I was really emotional, but I came off the stage and actually what was nuts was I just remembered that, because then when they did the totalizer at the end of the night, we were hoping that we'd raise, I don't know, 150k, maybe like tops. That would be like a dream. We didn't. We raised over £500,000 that night. And again, it just confirmed it all. And it was like, oh my God. And actually more importantly, because the numbers are important. So what I didn't know is that if you cure follicular lymphoma, you cure 35 other cancers at the same time. And these are like incurable breast cancer, incurable prostate cancer, all of these different things. It really is. This little known blood cancer is really the linchpin for curing many more, because it'll spill over. So it's such an important mission. And the cool thing is that it's really realistic to think that within the next 7 years, it will be cured and they will have found the cure. In fact, there might be people out there who are already cured off the research that they've done. And they've just run their third gala dinner and raised over 900,000, which is amazing. That all funding this. Fantastic. And it's like, holy moly. And then so after that whole piece then, so I went through this big change curve that we all go through, right? So change curve. And then it was like, I think what that whole experience had given me, because I'd got, I'd had the highs of Oyster, but I'd been really successful from that side, doing it. I loved all the team stuff. But there was always this thing that's gnawed away at me, and that is the speaking bit, because I love it. Like I just so passionate and I love it. And even now, and going through this change curve and going, well, if I don't have as long as I want on the planet, I'm going to make sure I'm going to live by my mantra that I heard all those days back in Plas Menai, which was one life, live it. All right. And I thought, I'm going to really go for this. Mm. And then so coming out of Oyster, once I got myself back on my feet, healthy again and all good, I was like, right, that's it. I'm going to become a global keynote speaker. I've no idea how I'm going to do it. I have no idea. I am just going to put myself out there and I'll find the way and I'll take the opportunities and I'll go to where I need to go. And I'm blessed that the opportunities have come up and I've just got on planes and I've gone, and now I'm privileged to go out and speak to people all over the world. And what's super cool is it's not about like me at all. It's about the audience and actually the breakthroughs that we can create together. Because what I love to do is quite quickly, I'll share my journey, but actually more to the point, I share the mindset or the tools that I've learned to actually get me through big challenges, to create success, to do all of those things. And what's important in life, which is the quality of our relationships, right? Cut everything back. It's who you love, who you spend time with, those experiences that you create. That's what true wealth is in life, And so quite quickly what we'll do is we'll get a mic into the audience and people will stand up, and then we'll just do these beautiful interventions of where we solve the issue, whatever the issues are. And it's just led me on a path that, I'm still working it out. I'm still making it up as I go along.
Like we all are.
Yeah. But, it's really, the whole journey. I think I was going to sum the whole thing up. It comes down to the fact that, change is inevitable, but progress isn't. And I think what I've learned to do is I've learned to create progress where it's easy to get stuck. I don't stay stuck for very long. I've learned how to flip myself into the right mindset to manage my internal world. Because I'm a big believer, if we manage our internal world, we can influence the external world.
Yeah.
But many people get caught up trying to control the external world. But the truth is we can't. We can influence it at best. But 1,000,000% we can manage our internal world. And being able to do that has really allowed me to live so far a great life, an incredible journey with great people. It's not always been easy, but where I've grown most is going through the toughest times.
Amazing. One of the things I ask in this podcast is, what are the highs and lows of your business journey? And I feel like I've been on an absolute roller coaster. I mean, just hugely fantastic. But it would be remiss of me not to ask you my sum up question, if you like, which is, what is your message for viewers and listeners? And I think there has been many, many, many messages in this wonderful podcast. But what would you say was that one message that you'd like to leave with everybody?
I think it's really a cycle of how our brains work, and just really understanding that and cutting it so it's super simple, so we all understand it. And it is this: as I think, so I feel. As I feel, so I do. As I do, so I create. And that goes round again in a loop. Because if we get the result that we want, we think better, we feel better, we do better. And that is such a key message. And if you ever question that, the thing is, I'm sure many people have gone, oh, I know I should go to the gym, but I don't feel like it. But we never question, well, why don't I feel like it? The truth is, it's our thinking behind it. Yeah. It's that cycle. And so, because many of us know what we should do, right? I should work out, I should do this, I should do that, I should do that. But we should all over ourselves, all right? Whereas actually turning shoulds into musts is really where the rubber meets the road, being able to execute. So what I've learned is, if I don't feel like doing something, I've learned to step back and go, what am I thinking right now? Is the quality of my thinking really supporting me? Yes or no, and making that black or white, and learning to trigger myself into a great emotional state. And being able to do that has allowed me to go forward even when I feel the fear, because that's what courage is. Courage is moving forward but still feeling fear, right? But also, just understanding that cycle. As I think, so I feel, so I feel, so I do, so I do, so I create. So that would be the message that I would leave.
What a great message. And so there will be plenty of people on this podcast who would like to book you now to stand in front of their teams.
Brilliant.
And help them on their journey with your amazing stories. So how would they do that? How would they contact you?
Yeah, great. So just go to pauladamson.com, the website, and there's a link there that you can book a Zoom call with us. That's no problems at all.
Brilliant.
And also be thrilled to follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, wherever, and engage with us. And make sure you follow this guy as well. this guy needs a Christmas present, and the Christmas present is, please share this. Even if you're a LinkedIn lurker, if you're I never engage on social media, never share. The truth is, any great content to get out there and to reach the world and make an impact in a greater way, the only way that happens is when all of us step off the fence and we share great content. So if you've enjoyed this, we'd really appreciate you sharing it, and give this man an incredible Christmas present. Share it, help him get his message out there, which is freaking amazing, because this guy, incredible executive coach, and if you need a coach for your team, there's no better man than Michael here. So for Christmas, that's all we want for Christmas. Please share, engage, and let us know what you really enjoyed about this, and happy Christmas to you as well. There's my little pitch for you, Michael.
Fantastic. This is my new marketing guy. As from 2026, you're going to be a very, very busy man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for doing the podcast. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, as Paul said, a very Merry Christmas to everybody. If you like what you've seen today, then please go and click subscribe. We're hoping to have 1 million subscribers by the end of the first quarter of 2026. So that's quite ambitious.
I love it.
Let's hope for that. So visit YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts if you want to listen to us on the way into work or on the way home or just out walking the dog. But there are some brilliant podcasts on there. So go and take a look. And for now, from meeting amazing leaders on their journey to success, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Have a wonderful Christmas, everybody. And we'll see you in the next podcast.